We begin our story with Spider-Man patrolling the city of New York. It's the last day of summer vacation, and our hero is looking for some last-minute action before school starts up again. And trust me, he doesn't have to wait long. Spider-Man stumbles upon none other than professional losers Flint Marko, the future Sandman, and Alex O'Hearn, the future Rhino of this universe, who he's captured countless times before. Easy work for our web-slinging hero. Little does he know that he's being watched by the criminal kingpin himself, the big man, and his right-hand man, Hammerhead. With Spider-Man's existence proven to the big man, he orders Hammerhead to dispatch a fearsome trio, the Enforcers. Things are heating up already. Now the Enforcers aren't your typical henchmen. They were a high-tech mercenary group hired by Big Man for these types of situations. The group consisting of Fancy Dan, Montana, and Ox, and they are a force not to be underestimated. Meanwhile, we see Adrian Toomes, the future Vulture and Spider-Man's first ever supervillain in this series at Oscorp. Adrian is furious that Norman Osborn stole the technology for his flight suit. Norman, being the scummy businessman that he is, denies stealing the technology and asks his guards to escort Adrian out of Oscorp. Now, back to our story. Peter Parker, before heading to school, overhears his Aunt May's financial concerns. He's a good kid who wants to help, but with great power comes great responsibility, right? At Midtown Manhattan Magnet School, Peter meets up with his good friends Gwen Stacy and Harry Osborn. A few minutes later, Peter, full of confidence because he's the one and only Spider-Man, tries to ask Sally Averill, the popular girl of the school, out on a date and get immediately shut down. After that embarrassing episode, Flash Thompson and Kenny King Kong, the bullies of the century, rough Peter up and even steal his lunch. Oh, high school drama at its finest. Peter shows us why he's the perfect fit for being Spider-Man. I'm sure not all of us would have the mental strength to not fight back if we had his powers. Meanwhile, we finally see the Enforcers, and they are being given the orders to squash our web-slinging hero once and for all. But it's not all doom and gloom, because after school, Peter and Gwen Stacy get a golden ticket. They're selected for an internship at Empire State University with none other than Dr. Curt Connors in the same lab where Peter got his Spidey powers. However, something is about to go wrong as we see the Vulture finally suiting up for the first time. Peter, still oblivious to the fact that his first ever supervillain is suiting up, decides to burn the time at Harry Osborn's place. As the two chat, they were interrupted by Norman Osborn. Overhearing that Peter got a lab job with Dr. Connors, Norman was quick to rain on Harry's parade by comparing him to Peter because he didn't get the lab job and Peter did. Just like how my mother compares me to my friends. But things take a wild turn. The elderly inventor Adrian Toomes, the Vulture, swoops in and kidnaps Norman Osborn. He is still pissed at Norman because of the stolen designs. Spidey's got to step in to save the day. Peter quickly changes into his Spider-Man costume and pursues the Vulture. As the Vulture continued to bully and intimidate Norman, Spider-Man finally shows up to save him. The Vulture, now frustrated, gives chase to the two as Spider-Man makes his escape. The Vulture, in an attempt to finish off Spider-Man and Norman, cuts Spider-Man's web, leading them to fall hundreds of feet. But this is Spider-Man we are talking about. He catches Norman and throws him to two patrolling police officers that then take him inside the station. As Spider-Man catches up to the Vulture, he taunts him by calling him Beaky. Now, this is the Spider-Man humor that I love. Vulture clearly being mad about the new pet name Spider-Man gave him, and his failure to humiliate Norman, flies off in defeat. Later that day, Peter finally gets to his new internship with Dr. Connors. Peter, being late because of the earlier fight with Vulture, gets the look from Gwen, which she denies. Entering, they meet their old-time friend Eddie Brock, who will certainly not turn into the Venom in the future. We also meet Dr. Curt Connors, who will certainly not turn into the Lizard in the future. When being toured around the lab, Peter finds out that the internship is not paid, and he is clearly bummed out about this because he can't help with Aunt May's financial problems. Peter, being desperate of money, finally gets a lucky break when a newspaper of the Daily Bugle hits his face, and he thinks of applying as a photographer. After being denied access by the Daily Bugle security, things get interesting. Peter, ever the clever one, sneaks into the Daily Bugle to convince J. Jonah Jameson that pictures of Spider-Man will sell like hotcakes. You've got to admire his hustle. But Jonah, being Jonah, kicks Peter out immediately because he's a kid and, even worse, a teenager. Later that night, as Norman Osborn returns home from the police station, Vulture shows up again and attacks him. Luckily, Spider-Man was around the area to come save the day again. As the two take to the skies for their fight, the night takes another twist. While Spider-Man chases the Vulture, the big man's enforcers, Montana, Fancy Dan, and Ox, enter the scene. It's a showdown like no other. Spider-Man takes on these tough cookies, and the action is intense. We're talking webs, flips, and some seriously impressive moves. But can he save the day? Spider-Man, having his hardest fight as of yet, tries to survive the flurry of attacks from the enforcers. But slowly, Spider-Man gets the upper hand, starting by knocking out Fancy Dan, then tying Ox to a pole. Ignoring Montana for now, Spider-Man catches up to Norman and the Vulture. Spider-Man continues his fight with the Vulture, but now with Montana joining the battle, it just got 10 times harder. Spider-Man, being the super genius that he is, manages to take down Vulture and Montana at the same time. 2 birds in 1 stone. With all 4 villains taken care of, even though Montana escaped, it was a victory nonetheless for our web-slinging hero. 3 out 4 ain't bad, especially on bizarre bad guy night. Finally, Peter heads home, tired and frustrated. But Aunt May's there, reminding us that family is what truly matters. And hey, who can resist a slice of banana cream pie? And there you have it. An absolute roller coaster of action, drama, and a little bit of pie. Spider-Man was the very first superhero that I've ever knew, and to this day, he is still my favorite superhero. A personal out-of-script note from me. With the rise of new superheroes into the mainstream like Iron Man, Thor, Shazam, and much more, Spider-Man still reigns as the best superhero that I have ever known. Till this day, I still follow by his example of never giving up even if you are losing. Even if you are at rock bottom, and even if you have a lot of problems, you still get back up and fight. That is who Spider-Man is for me. Since he is the very first superhero that I have ever known, it's only fitting that he will be the highlight of my first ever video here on YouTube. Let's follow in his example. Let's all never give up on our dreams. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will continue to share all my childhood heroes here on this channel. Thank you and see you next time.